You know, some crimes don't start with a weapon. They don't start with a plan, or even a motive we'd recognize. Some crimes, they start with an idea. The kind of idea that gets into your head and just festers, until it demands to be tested in the real world. And the consequences? Well, they're horrifying.
And that, right there, brings us to Rodion Raskolnikov. This quote, it's his entire defense, his whole delusion, all wrapped up in one sentence. This is a man who genuinely believed he could commit murder and justify it, not out of desperation, but with pure intellectual power. He thought he could kill an idea. The problem is, ideas don't bleed.
So to really understand this crime, we have to look past the act itself. We need to get inside the mind that created it. So let's step into the suffocating, feverish world that gave birth to Raskolnikov's monstrous theory.
Dostoevsky is just brilliant here. He tells us this whole crime was basically conceived in this tiny, box-like room Raskolnikov lived in. A room he calls more of a cupboard or a coffin than a place for a person. And that's no accident. This physical space is a perfect mirror for his mind, cramped, overheated, totally cut off from the world, the perfect incubator for a monstrous thought to hatch.
So what exactly is brewing in this pressure cooker of a room? Well, it's not just that he's poor, though he absolutely is. It's this toxic cocktail of poverty mixed with a burning, arrogant intellectual pride. He's convinced he's superior to everyone around him, yet at the same time, he's completely powerless. This creates this deep sense of alienation, a desperate need to matter, which he then focuses into a cold, chilling contempt for his victim, the pawnbroker, who he writes off as a useless louse.
But here's the thing about Raskolnikov. His escape plan isn't practical, like, say, getting a job. No, his escape is entirely philosophical. He builds this huge, elaborate intellectual framework to justify breaking the rules. He essentially writes himself a permission slip for murder.
And at the heart of this theory is a pretty simple idea. Humanity is split in two. You've got the ordinary masses, the herd. They have to obey the law and live by the rules. But then there are the extraordinary few. The Napoleons, the history makers. And these people, he argues, have an inner right to step over any obstacle, even another human life, to achieve their great purpose.
This is the stark moral universe he builds for himself. On one side, you've got the ordinary, who are just material, pretty much insignificant. But on the other, you've got the true movers of the world. And this all sets up the one terrifying question that is just eating him alive. Which one am I?
So here's the crucial leap he makes. He starts to see crime not as a moral failure, but as a necessary step, maybe even a heroic act, for anyone who wants to leave a mark on the world. The murder, then, isn't really about the money. It's a test. It's a philosophical experiment he performs on himself to prove that he is in fact extraordinary.
So he's got this grand, airtight theory. But what happens when that clean, intellectual theory smashes head-on into the hot, messy, brutal reality of violence? Well, it shatters. Instantly and completely.
Immediately after the crime, there's no feeling of power. Not even close. What he gets is a complete physical breakdown. His intellect, the very tool that led him to murder, just deserts him. It's replaced by a raging fever, as if his own body is violently rebelling against what his mind made it do.
He wanted so badly to prove he was separate from the herd. And, in a twisted way, he got his wish. But it's not the triumphant, glorious separation of a Napoleon. It's the terrifying, soul-crushing isolation of a monster. That single act of violence severs every connection he has to the rest of humanity.
An extraordinary man is supposed to be above common feelings, like fear, right? But Raskolnikov is drowning in it. A constant, gnawing dread takes over his life. He sees suspicion in every glance. He hears accusation in every quiet conversation. He becomes a prisoner of his own paranoia.
His theory was supposed to be his ticket to freedom, a way to break out of his coffin-like room and expand his world. But in reality, the murder just builds an impenetrable wall around him. He didn't break free, he just trapped himself in the loneliest shell imaginable.
The failure of his experiment was just catastrophic. Every single thing he expected was turned on its head by reality. He thought he'd find power and liberation. All he found was fear and weakness. He craved a feeling of superiority. He was crushed by misery. He wanted to be free from morality and, ironically, became a complete slave to his own guilt.
So, completely lost in this self-made hell, Raskolnikov seeks out the one person who represents the absolute opposite of his worldview, Sonia Marmeladolova. She's a young woman who's been forced into prostitution to feed her family, but somehow, through it all, she holds on to this deep, profound Christian faith.
And in his confession to Sonia, he finally starts peeling back his own layers of lies. He admits it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about helping his family. It wasn't about some abstract idea of justice. It was pure ego. He says, "I simply wanted to dare." He needed to prove to himself that he wasn't a louse.
Their interaction becomes the spiritual battleground of the entire novel. He comes at her with all his intellectual pride and nihilism. He even demands that she read him the story of Lazarus, the man raised from the dead. And in that moment, she sees right through the murderer. She sees a man who is secretly, desperately hoping for his own resurrection.
Sonia's solution isn't some complex intellectual argument. It's profoundly physical and spiritual. She tells him he has to go to a public place, bow down, kiss the earth that he stained with blood, and confess his sin to everyone. It's a path of total humility, the only possible antidote to his murderous pride.
And this guidance from Sonia leads us to the novel's incredible conclusion. It's not just about punishment. It's about the long, agonizing, and really uncertain road toward genuine rebirth.
Even after he confesses, and he's sent to a prison camp in Siberia, his mind is still fighting. And this is where we see his true punishment. It's not the hard labor. It's his inability to feel genuine remorse. He only regrets that he failed, that he was stupid enough to get caught. His theory is dead, but his pride is still alive and kicking.
The final breakthrough, the moment where things actually start to change, it doesn't come from a logical conclusion. He can't think his way to redemption. It only happens when his constant analyzing finally fails, and he's just overwhelmed by this pure, unthinking wave of love for Sonia, who has followed him all the way into exile.
And in this one incredible, involuntary moment, his intellectual pride is just broken completely. He doesn't decide to surrender. Something bigger than him seizes him and throws him at her feet. And it's right there, weeping, that the punishment finally ends, and a new life, a life of genuine redemption, can slowly and very painfully begin.
Raskolnikov's journey leaves us with this haunting question, doesn't it? His story is this timeless, terrifying warning about how easily an idea born from pride can convince a person they have the right to decide who lives and who dies. It forces us all to ask, where is that line between ambition and monstrosity?
So why does crime and punishment still matter today? Because Raskolnikov isn't just a character from the 19th century. He is a mirror of our modern arrogance. Dostoevsky shows us that intelligence without morality is dangerous. In a world obsessed with power and success, this book forces us to face a terrifying truth. When we try to step above the law to become extraordinary, we don't become gods. We simply destroy our own humanity.